I think the customers will continue to buy what they need. And as things evolve and as more and more customers are perhaps taking their video business, if you will, through the computer as opposed to through the cable video or the telephone video package, they might be willing to trade the dollars that they would have paid for video and put them into their broadband if they're not getting the service they want. But one of the things I think we need to understand right now is that 50 megabits is a lot of service, and you can run a number of devices, and all those devices can be streaming video at the same time, and you still have pretty good reliable service. I mean, obviously there are pockets, and there are problems if the particular pipe that goes into your house isn't as reliable as someone else's is. So there are differences depending on the machines you're using to stream that video and so forth. But generally speaking, 50 megabits is a lot of, and we're talking about residential now. Obviously businesses need and want and get from all these companies much higher speeds when they need them. But for residential purposes right now, given what people are using technology for now, which of course we all have to admit and assume is going to change over time, but for now 50 megabytes is a lot of speed for a household.
Okay. Just focusing once again on the low-income service that Time Warner Cable is going to be required to offer. This is to free and reduced price lunch households and seniors on SSI.
Correct.
Is there a projection on the rollout of that service over time?
There is a time frame under the order. Within 6 months, they have to start rolling it out in New York. Six months of closing, they have to roll it out within New York State. There are checkpoints and so forth where they have to be, in contact with staff. They have to do annual reports on all these conditions. So the staff is going to be very closely monitoring how this is rolled out over time. Much beyond that, I just would like to say, this has the FCC has not stepped in here yet, so there still are some open issues.
Right. Now you heard my question to I forget who it was. No, it was to the Public Service Commission about the Altrice application and the fact that in the Bronx, it's the poorest county in the state, and the order for the low-income population is for free and reduced price lunch and seniors on SSI, but that excludes a large number of the poor people from that, from they're not in those groups. And also, for instance, the senior citizen population, very large numbers of them are just slightly above the poverty level. So they are, they're 150% above the poverty level. Their incomes are $18,000, but the SSI population is, people on SSI, their incomes frequently are $10,000, $12,000 a year, even less. So that is a extremely indigent group, so it's good that they could get an offer of something very inexpensive, but a large percentage of the poor population is excluded from this requirement that they be offered people on public assistance, seniors who are at the poverty level but are not on SSI. So would New Charter, Time Warner, would they be willing to entertain a review of that particular aspect of the order to determine whether or not a larger group should be made eligible, or is that something that could be considered at some later time? And I guess it's the same question for Cablevision. So you heard Ms. Walker, she represents Brownsville, which similar to the Bronx in terms of, it's much of Brownsville and East New York are very poor. But in the Bronx, and actually that's your service territory as well, would you be willing to consider a more expanded version of what a service to the low-income population, or the expanding the eligibility of the low-income population for a inexpensive broadband service?
Well, with respect to new charter, the ink is barely dry on the commission's order, and
Okay.
they have not, as I mentioned, gone to or completed the FCC yet. So I think it's very early to be asking, what they might consider down the line.
Well, there
with
it is.
respect to the Altice merger, it's in very early stages at the New York Public Service Commission, and it is pending. So I don't think it would be appropriate to answer that question.
I think April is the timetable for making a decision.
It's a fast timeline.
So it's not that early,
But,
because pretty soon it'll be quite late.
We're still going through the discovery phase, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for me on this particular group. Anyway, thank you very much. I really appreciate your coming and testifying and being patient. And let me continue to say thank you for being patient. We're going to take about a 5-minute break, and then we will go on with the other witnesses.